One of the most common misconceptions, I think, is that people generally, when they think about family-owned businesses, they picture these small mom and pop run restaurants or corner stores, and that's definitely not the case. Family businesses are everywhere, of all shapes and sizes. They represent 63% of businesses in the private sector in Canada and account for approximately 50% of private sector GDP, as well as 50% of private sector employment. A couple of the major challenges unique to family businesses are certainly that inseparable nature between the family and the business. And so there's a couple of things with this, is that one, you really do have to make a conscious effort to try and keep family in the family and business in the business. So don't let what happens in the living room influence what's going on in the boardroom. There's these three distinct but interrelated roles. So you could be just a family member, you could be a family member and an employee, or you could be a family member, an employee, and a shareholder. And so that's really tricky to manage these different dynamics. And then I think the other thing too that we often don't talk about is the fact that when that next gen takes over, there's a lot of pressure put on his or her shoulders. And so really making sure that they have the support that they need to be able to do that successfully. And then lastly, of course, is the hot topic of succession. The research suggests that 30% of family-owned businesses make it to the second generation, 12% make it to the third generation, and only 3% make it to the fourth generation and beyond. So succession is clearly tricky. One of the big reasons family businesses fail is due to a lack of communication and a breakdown in trust. We might think about succession as like one point in time, the point at which you pass the baton. But you have to realize that there's decades of family history, dynamics that are informing that decision point. And so to the extent that you can engage in that open conversation and make it a multi-stakeholder conversation is really important. What does a successful succession look like? First is the importance of starting early. And so these are small things like take that next gen when they're children to accompany you to the office. When that next gen is socialized at an early age, that's really important so that they begin to foster that emotional attachment to the firm. But also stakeholders like employees and suppliers get to know them. And so there's kind of that legitimacy building. Once that next gen shows an interest, what are their vision and their goals for the family business, and how is that aligned or not aligned with the predecessors? And then I would say lastly, to go outside. And what I mean by that is typically they spend 3 to 5 years working in the same industry but at a different firm. And so again, that contributes towards your legitimacy building when you do come back, but also in terms of the knowledge and the capabilities that you need to lead the firm. Family-owned businesses are really good at building strong stakeholder relations, developing those ties with their employees, their shareholders, customers, but also importantly, their communities. And so when you look at their missions and their values, they really care about giving back. The reason why they're so good at doing this is that unlike non-family-owned businesses where it can often be mandated, family-owned businesses inherently or intrinsically want to pursue this because of that idea of the legacy and that multi-generational survival, that they want to make sure that they're leaving this community, this environment in a good place that it can sustain for generations. One other thing that I'll add is they often tend to be people-oriented. They really oftentimes pride themselves on treating employees like family. And I find this interesting because in recent years, there's been popular press about how if you're interviewing for a firm that prides itself as being treating you like family, this could be a red flag because some families are dysfunctional. But I think it's different in the context of family-owned businesses, because what that means is that they are making a conscious effort to treat the family and the non-family employees equally. So really going the extra mile, developing them with regards to training, development, and giving them equal opportunities.